Every year prior to the Big Ten season, we circle about 3 or 4 games that are must-sees that will decide the Big Ten race. Michigan, Penn State, certainly one of those here in 2017. The Wolverines travel to Happy Valley, coming off a couple dismal offensive performances, but with one of the top 5, and many believe the best defense in the country, visiting Happy Valley. We bring in Tim Aiden from Black Shoes Diary, the SB Nation platform for Penn State athletics, to talk up a huge one in the Big Ten, and really the first really big Titanic matchup in the conference this season. Tim, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, Mark. Coming to you live from my old teenage bedroom here in State College, PA. So
doesn't get much better than that.
Game tomorrow.
Reliving some memories right there on campus, very close to campus, right there in State College, right at the old stomping grounds.
Indeed. I'm looking forward to maybe attending the last bit of game day tomorrow and then walking over to the tailgating fields and then hitting up the game at night. So just obviously hoping, Penn State can pull out the win, but I think it'll be a good game regardless. So
it's one of the great experiences in college football, one of the great settings, one of the great traditions, of course, there at Penn State. And then when you add to it number 2 ranking in the country, undefeated record, first real huge Titanic home game against a traditional rival in Michigan, one of the storied programs, of course, in college football. This has all the makings of a great game. And of course, it's going to be a great setting. We know that, with 100,000 plus going with the Whiteout, right?
Yeah,
that is correct, Tim.
The annual Whiteout game. So.
Tim, I don't think I've had a chance to talk to you since the test at Iowa City. So that must have got the heart racing just a bit. Penn State statistically dominated the game. Saquon Barkley had what we expect him to have and may need to have against the likes of Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State, a Heisman kind of game. And still, it almost wasn't enough, as the Hawkeyes seemed to make the right plays at the right time, play great red zone defense, stay in the game, and had a lead very late until Trace McSorley threw that bullet off his back foot to Juwan Johnson to pull out that game between it seemed about 8 hands were in the way of that pass, but it made its way to the back of the end zone. So that was the one true test to date, and Penn State survived. So you can look at it as a warning sign for Penn State against better teams, but still many teams don't make it out of Iowa City, and Penn State was able to survive that one.
Well, indeed. I mean, it's nice. It's nice for once to see Penn State actually win one of those close games, especially at a place like Kinnick Stadium, which is where top 10 teams go to die at night. So, I mean, I still, the 2008 game where undefeated, they were, and Daniel Murray kicked the game-winning field goal to ruin their BCS championship hopes. I still have it's something I've still tried unsuccessfully to block out of my mind. And and late in that game when, I don't remember, Penn State was up by 2 points. They were driving downfield, touchdown, then kicked the extra point to essentially ice it. And they got stuck in the red zone like they had been all night long and forced to kick a field goal. And so, unfortunately, field kicking has been an adventure this year, which is not something that I would have predicted in the preseason, given how clutch Tyler Davis has been the last couple of years. But unfortunately, Iowa blocked that kick, and I was immediately thinking, oh boy, 2008 Redux coming. And sure enough, Iowa's marching downfield, and I'm thinking, well, here it comes. They're going to kick a field goal with 2 seconds left again, ruin our undefeated season, break my heart, Then Akram Wadley just breaks a big run for like 30, 40 yards for a touchdown. And normally, while that would make someone upset, I was actually thinking back in my mind, you know what? I'm glad they scored that touchdown now. With a minute and a half to go, at least that gives the offense a chance to march downfield, maybe get in the end zone for that winning score. And sure enough, that's what happened. So, and I don't remember too much else after that. I just remember running around my brother's apartment screaming and calling everyone I know and screaming into the phone. So it was quite the game. But I guess to go back to what you're talking about with Iowa, it was pretty much bend but don't break type strategy. Kind of a nod actually to how Penn State's defense played for many years when Tom Bradley was the D coordinator. They'll give up those 5-8 yard plays, but they once you get towards the red zone though, they tighten up and they just don't allow you to cross into the end zone very easily like some other teams might. And you know what? I mean, they nearly played it to perfection. I mean, they kept us out of the end zone. We're kicking field goals. Their defense is forcing just enough mistakes to get possession of a short field and just score on big plays. They weren't exactly – actually, the funny thing with that game is it was a reversal of roles because Penn State was known going to that game for being a quick strike offense, whereas Iowa is a slower, plodding, eat up clock type of offense. But Penn State dominated the time of possession. I don't have the stats up on me in front of me, but they had probably a good 20-minute time of possession advantage, which was really unusual. But it was one of those strange games, Iowa they did probably just everything you could to pull off the upset, but Penn State was able to just get that last drive going and, somehow get out of there undefeated.
Yeah, it appeared to be the typical Hawkeye clinic, as you mentioned, at night in Iowa City with the top 10 team in town pulling off an upset. Michigan was the victim last year late in the season when they were undefeated, and the Hawkeyes played their formula almost to perfection. And how many batted balls were there at the defensive line by the Hawkeyes? It seemed like they batted about 7 or 8 passes down at the line of scrimmage. Iowa never gets enough credit because they don't have the big time wide receivers. They don't have a flashy quarterback, so they don't put up the highlight reel plays on offense. But man, that team can play some tough football, and they're going to be in difficult out for Wisconsin and anybody else that runs into them down the stretch in the Big Ten. Not a great team, but a very good team. And if you catch them when they're not turning the ball over on offense and it plays into the hands of the defense, their defense can be almost as good as any in the country.